man. But enough about music. Well, I guess kind of a cool segue about music. Our next guest, Bassman.
McCall.
He's kind of into music these days. He was over in India promoting a Korn show, and I know he's got a Guns N' Roses show and a Lady Gaga show to deal with later this year. We had him on the show a few weeks ago before he took off to India. We talked to him about his book coming out November 30th. It's titled Been There and Done That. And this gentleman, Rick Bassman, he has pretty much been there and done that and a whole lot more in the sports entertainment world and just the entertainment world in general. We talked to him about his pro wrestling experience, with guys like Sting and the Ultimate Warrior, The Miz and Chris Masters, different guys that he sent to the WWF and WWE. And, we also heard about his personal life and some of the, adversities that he's conquered, like cancer and, homelessness and drug addiction and all kinds of crap. And this guy is on top of the world, man. Like I said, over in India, kicking it with Korn, dude.
Yeah.
It's been a wild experience. But without further ado, I'm going to dial up the phone and we're going to talk to Mr. Rick Bassman about that and hear about his experience with the MMA world, Mark Kerr and Coleman and guys like that, and get him on the horn here. Still ringing. One more time.
Hello.
Hey, good evening, Rick. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm alive and kicking, man. Can't ask for much more.
All right. Good deal.
Well, this is Big Perm with UMOR. You're back on the line with me and my co-host, Dave the Butcher. Dave, you still with us, man?
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to have you back, Rick.
Thanks, Dave. Are we actually on the air right now?
Yeah.
We're live, brother.
Oh, okay. Well, I better kick it up a notch then. How are you guys doing, all right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We are awesome. How was your trip to India, man? That was the last thing we talked about a few weeks ago.
Oh, dude, it was good. I feel like I'm still there. I got back just last night, and I'm a little on the north side of severely jet lagged right now, which normally doesn't happen to me. So, pardon me if I sound a little off this evening.
Oh, we'll enjoy it. We'll take full advantage of it too.
Right on. Please do. No, man, the trip was great. I was there for I consult for a company out there who's fast on the way to becoming the leading live events producer in that country. They're already the leading television producer. And we had our first concert tour with Korn, which was a lot of fun. So it was embedded with the band for a week, and then they went home, and I spent a week in the office doing more work, getting our mixed martial arts company together out there, getting ready for Guns N' Roses, and a whole bunch of other good things. It was a good trip.
Did you get to check out, like, one of the things I'm really interested in my spare time is geology and archaeology and the history of the planet and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And India is one of the places where they're very, it seems to me like those, there's a lot of spirituality over there and a lot of great geography. Did you get to go check out any of that?
Well, I've made a bunch of trips now, and each time I get to go out and explore a little bit more, which is great. In terms of what you're calling geology or archaeology, with all due respect, that's not really my thing so much. What I like to do is just go out and kind of mix with the local scene and the vibe and take all that in. It's funny. We always say in the pro wrestling and in the mixed martial arts world, I've traveled extensively with both of those sports, that 80% of the guys, when you're in another country, basically hide out in their hotel room all day and play video games or watch bad local porn, whatever it is. And
right.
And then it's true, it is. And boy, you haven't seen anything bad, so you've seen like Japanese porn. But in any case,
blacked out.
Yeah, so you've watched your share apparently.
Absolutely.
But, there you go. So, but in any case, I always like to get out and about, and this particular trip, we did do one very touristy thing. Myself and most of the guys from the Korn crew hired a bus, and we drove a few hours to Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is, and got to see that. So that was very cool. And then on another day, myself and two of the guys in the Korn band and one of the crew guys went into what's called Old Delhi, and it's just like everything you would imagine the craziness of India to be and look like and feel like and smell like and all that. So
Sweet.
That was pretty cool.
And I heard traffic over there is just nuts.
I'm sorry, the traffic?
Yeah, the people, the way they drive, like they really don't obey the road rules.
No, I mean, I've seen varying degrees of obeying or disobeying traffic in different parts of the world, and India, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's borderline chaos. But the thing that's interesting about it is it's just a constant like symphony of horns. It never stops. Everybody honks at everybody constantly. But the funny thing is, there's no like malice in it. No one's shaking their fist. No one's threatening to get out of their car and kick someone else's ass. There's no road rage. It's all just like taken in stride. So that part of it's pretty interesting. I was in
There's that spirituality though.
Yeah, I don't know that it's that. I think the people there are just generally, pretty cool. They come up differently. There's a nice warm vibe in general.
Sweet.
I was in Kinshasa last year, and that was absolutely the worst I've ever been in by far. There's not a single stoplight or stop sign in the country. You can imagine that. And the traffic is not directional there, meaning that it's not like, these cars drive on that side of the road and the others drive on this side of the road. It's you just drive wherever the hell you want to drive.
Holy cow.
Oh, dude, it's something else. I mean, I would say that, India makes the 405, which is LA's big freeway, look like a cakewalk, and then India compared to the Congo is nothing. So it's different in different parts of the world.
Right. Well, Rick, the last time we had you on the show, we talked about your book that comes out November 30th, Been There and Done That.
Right.
We also talked a bit about your experience and your work with some pro wrestlers like Sting and The Ultimate Warrior, The Miz, and a few other guys. You also mentioned a little bit, just briefly, about working with Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman.
Right.
Tonight, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about your experience with the MMA world, and
sure.
maybe just start off by how, those guys, Kerr and Coleman, and how you got involved with those guys, and just go from there.
Sure. Yeah, what had happened is back in the somewhat early days of my wrestling school, which was based in Orange County, is that the school was exploding. I had over 100 students enrolled, and we were at the point where we were actually fairly well maxed out. And a lot of the students and a lot of the inquiries were coming from Los Angeles, which is, it's not, in wrestling school parlance, it's not far. It's 70, 80 miles away, and we all know the stories of the, Edges and Christians and Jericho's driving hundreds of miles to learn. But I thought it made business sense to open a branch in Los Angeles. So rather than open my own freestanding building, I got to know Rico Chiapparelli, who was a guy that founded the legendary Raw team. And Rico was the MMA trainer of Frank Trigg, Dan Henderson, Randy Couture. He started all of these guys.
Wow.
And in getting to know Rico, was a great, great guy, but very interesting. Do you know Rico Chiapparelli or know of him?
I
know.
No. Exactly.
First I've heard it, man.
He'd be a guy for you to put on at one point. Very trippy guy. He was a pretty successful fashion model in Europe and all that. But you look at him right now, and he looks like a guy who would live on the street. He walks around barefoot. His hair is disheveled. But he's a genius. He's a really trippy guy. And he came up to me one day as we were really getting to know each other, and he said, hey, you know what? I've been taking care of these two guys in management. Management's not really my thing, so I'd like to introduce you to them. And the guys he introduced me to were Mark Coleman and Mark Kerr. And this was right at the time where both guys were pretty much on top, Coleman in UFC, Kerr in Pride. And Rico just didn't have the capacity to manage. He didn't want to do it. So he introduced me. I hit it off with both Marks right out of the gate. And, my first foray, or actually it was my second foray into management in MMA, was with the Marks, Coleman and Kerr. So it was a good start. My first, incidentally, and it's a funny story for another time, but I brought, do you guys remember Ludwig Borga?
Yeah, I've heard that one. I have seen that before.
He was one of the top heels in WWF in a slow period.
Yep.
He feuded with Lex Luger when Lex was champion.
Yeah, when Lex was like the All-American guy or whatever, right?
Exactly, and Ludwig was a big scary guy from Finland, and it was like Volkov and Nikolai Volkov all these years later with the Finnish national anthem. But
almost like a Baron Rashke. Yeah.
Yeah, but truly a very, very scary guy. And my first venture into MMA management is I brought Tony into UFC, and he fought in the heavyweight tournament at UFC 13. And his opponent it was his opponent's debut fight was Randy Couture. So I had Randy's opponent in his first fight ever, and oddly enough, Randy's cornerman was Rico Ciaffarelli. So these things always seem to come full circle.
Wow.
But that was a whole different story. It was
that's cool, man.
Randy. If you ever talk to him, will tell you he was absolutely terrified in his debut, and Tony. We had 3 opponents drop out in a row, and this whole internet. The internet was pretty new then, even, and the internet legend was born that this guy Tony Holm or Ludwig Borga had killed people in prison and ripped people apart with his bare hands. If you can imagine, people actually bought into this.
Sweet.
And Randy almost ducked out of the fight because Randy's mother tried to convince him to pull out of the fight. And,
no.
Yeah, and Tony's this big 6'5", 300-pound, scary-looking monstrosity, and we all know now that doesn't really mean much. But back in this point in time, most of us, myself included, thought the toughest guys in the world were the guys that looked the part. And
sure.
Then you had this guy who was barely 6 foot, who was already balding and didn't have much of a physique yet, who just looked like a scared deer in the headlights, and that was Randy. And he ate Tony up in like 58 seconds. It was pretty hysterical.
Oh, wow. That's
awesome. I've got a whole story on that in my book. It's pretty funny stuff, actually.
That's awesome.
I've also seen a lot of pictures with you and the other legends like Marco Huas, again, Mark Coleman, just so many.
Yeah, Dan Severin, Boss Rutten. Yeah, these guys are all my friends. We all, Ken Shamrock, we all hung out in the early days. They still remain my friends to this day. I've been working forever now on a tournament called the MMA Icon, which would reunite all these guys in a single cage for one night.
Thank you.
With a very
We've talked about that a couple times tonight.
I tried to get a Severin Shamrock 3 fight off the gate. I had investors, but they were shitty and they fucked it all up, so I couldn't do it.
I've been working on this for a long time. It's very, and I don't even mind talking about it on air. It's fine, but it's very, very detailed on paper. I actually have letters of intent from every single guy. We were very close. Yeah, and the lineup. I'll probably miss a couple, but it's Coleman, Kerr, Randleman, Maurice Smith, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severin, Oleg Taktarov, Tank Abbott, Bob Sapp, Timo, and Butterbean. I think that's the lineup.
Holy cow!
Which sounds ridiculous, I know, and
Butterbean.
Bean's a real good friend of mine, and neither Bean nor Bob Sapp. Yeah, neither Bean nor Sapp fought in UFC, but they seem like logical choices to include in this tournament if it happens.
Yeah, certainly. I've watched Butterbean fight a couple times. It's always been some kind, some promoter making a gimmick out of it, though. It kind of sucked, but he was really nice.
Yeah, but have you seen? I've represented Bean now. I think I'd say I'd cornered for him maybe 10 or 11 times now. It's been a lot. We've been all over the world together. And on the very, very last Pride show, he fought. His opponent was Zulu. Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Zulu's, big giant guy, much bigger than Butterbean actually. And they promote Zulu as a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And Bean actually swept him from the bottom and caught him in an armbar and submitted him, which was hysterical.
Nice.
And then Bean had a very, very clean knockout of James Thompson at Cage Rage in England. So,
were you with him in Detroit? Were you with him in Detroit when he fought? Who was it? Don Richards?
No. I know what that is. No, I wasn't. I've been with him at all of his international fights, all the ones in Japan, all the ones in England.
Cool.
When he fought Pat Smith in New Jersey, I was there. I was at his last Canadian fight. And he's truly one of my best friends at this point. He's a great guy. And the gimmick thing is just because, he's a walking, talking gimmick, that he actually does have some real skills. And, You know,
I was impressed. I was really impressed by the fight because I wasn't sure. Because the promoter was such a douche at this fucking show that it was. I felt bad for the guy, to be honest with you, because I was just a staff member. I wasn't even an announcer for the big shows yet, And hopefully, if you need an announcer for your that event that you're talking about, if you don't have a guy in mind already, I'll send you my demo.
You'll have to compete with my good friend Todd Kennelly. We kind of all have our boys in the business.
Well, that's cool though, and I respect that, and I appreciate all of that. I really do. I've always got along with good announcers. When there's good, we just all get along. It's not as competitive because we don't have to fight.
Are you play-by-play or color?
I do both. I'm actually a ring announcer by trade. I call people to the cage. I bring the noise. I'm fighting out of the blue corner. That guy.
Yes. Let's talk about Bruce Buffer for a moment, just for kicks.
Okay.
What do you think about Bruce?
Absolutely. You know what? I met Michael Buffer at a WCW show that I attended in Cincinnati, and he was the epitome of professionalism. I had not known yet that I was going to be a ring announcer, of course, but I always loved his part, dude. That was like my favorite part of the fucking show.
Okay.
So when Bruce came along, I saw him doing it, and I was kind of like, well, it's just a little too much sometimes. And I respect the shit out of him because he does the job that I think is probably the pinnacle of my profession.
Dude, you are no fun. You just don't want to have any fun at all, do you?
I'll tell you what. You know what? Fuck Bruce Buffer. Fuck Bruce Buffer in the neck. I could do it so much goddamn better. It's not even funny. That's the truth.
Dude, I think Bruce is hysterical. I never say fuck Bruce because he cracks me up. If Bruce were no longer here, the world would not be as half as amusing place it is right now.
No, and I like his show a lot, dude. But as far as that goes, damn it, I wish that there wasn't such a great person doing it. But yeah, fuck him, damn it.
No, dude,
that's just hate. That's just hate. If you want to have fun,
everybody out there thinks they should have their own reality show. You know what I mean? It's like they all think they'd be the greatest subject for a reality show.
Right.
Bruce Buffer needs to have his own reality show. But the whole thing is, it would be like the Truman Show, where he's being followed, and he doesn't realize that the joke is on him the entire time. I'm telling you, Bruce. I mean, like, you got to sit in a room with Bruce and have him tell you the story of how he invented the 360, which was his cold jumping circle, which he thinks.
Dude, he looks good doing it.
Dude, he absolutely thinks. Dude, like I said, you are no fun. Bruce absolutely thinks this is the single greatest athletic achievement of all time. And when he tells the story of how Dana egged him on to do it and was so excited when he completed it, I mean, I know Dana, and I could just see Dana quietly laughing his ass off from here to Kingdom Come because Bruce took this athletic achievement. So we were in Waikiki years ago, and we're sitting out at Duke's having a couple of Mai Tais. It was me and Bruce and Tito Ortiz and a couple of other guys, and we all start talking about going surfing. Now, if you've ever been to Waikiki and have ever surfed there, I mean, most people know a 3-year-old can surf Waikiki. It's like the greatest 2-foot rolling break on the planet.
Like the Great Lakes.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very easy to ride. So I'm not much of a surfer, but that's an easy deal. So Bruce says, as Bruce will do, anytime you talk to Bruce, and God love him, he is the absolute expert on every subject ever invented on this planet. And Bruce says, "Oh man," he goes, "Yeah, I get out there, but you know, guys, I don't know if you know this, but I could have been a professional surfer. I'm a big wave surfer. So I'm not sure about this Waikiki thing, but yeah, what you guys are gonna go out, whatever." So we get out there, and Tito says, he goes, "I've never surfed before." He goes, "I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this." So I know enough where I said, I'll show you what to do. The 2-foot break, big deal. So we're out there paddling around. Tito was kind of having a rough time and not digging it. So he goes, I'm going to go in. So I go paddle a little more, and there's Bruce. And there's Bruce popping up on his board and falling off and popping up and falling off. And the guy cannot stand up to save his freaking life. And I said, well, Bruce, what's going on, man? The big waves. He goes, yeah, these things are too small. They don't have the torque of the big waves. Not for me. And it's like, that's Bruce Buffer. I love him.
That's funny. Well, and that's one of the things that when I started doing this job, when you see the person that's doing it above you, in all reality, I like to have fun and I might say fuck somebody, but to be honest, and the real honest to God truth of it is, without without Michael Buffer, there's no Bruce Buffer. Michael Buffer made that position necessary. You know what I mean? He really did, and he created the iconic way of saying it so much that no one's allowed to say it, even if they are allowed to say it.
They own it. Michael and Bruce have a company called Let's Get Ready to Rumble Enterprises, and Bruce is the business behind it. Yeah, they own that trademark. You're right. If someone says it, they got to pay for it.
Sure, and they are, and so they put really more so than anybody. They've laid down the cobblestones that I now walk on and make a living off of, and I really, you can't say anything other than the fact that anything he does is on the biggest stage, and that's his spot. You know what I mean?
There you go.
That's the way it works.
You got it.
That is.
You got
I can't have fun with that. I'm
not as politically correct as you are, but I appreciate what you're saying. It's all good.
Well, it comes from the heart, though. It really is. It's just that's how I feel about it. I've seen other guys, and I've seen crappy announcers and known that, well, they must be boys with the promoter or something. But I also do play-by. I do color mainly because I'm not a fighter. I just enjoy bantering with the guy that is knowledgeable and being amazed by it. To be honest with you, I do commentary and announcing, sometimes double duty, just because it flows better for the interviews. But sorry,
Bruce is a great announcer. I will not take that away from him. And on our
he made it happen. He made it happen.
And on our MMA Icon tournament, if we pull it off, and if I can't get Boss Rutan to fight in the tournament, I was looking at Boss for color. But if he fights, then we'll have a chat.
I'll tell you what, I would love to. I'll rise to the occasion, sir.
So let me ask you this: with those 14 guys that I named in the tournament, who would win?
The entire tournament?
Yep.
You said Boss Rutan?
Boss, Maurice Smith, Ken Shamrock, Ken
Boss
Campbell,
Rutan.
Butterbean. Boss
Rutan. Yes, sir.
You know what I have my money on?
Too.
If it happened today, I would predict Boss Rutan wins.
I've got my money on Dan Severn, believe it or not.
Dude, great friend of mine. He lives in Michigan here, and I've actually just gotten to be friends with him. I help him book seminars at high schools and stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. Condition-wise, and as far as if he gets a hold of you, he's got a hold of you till the end of that match. But Boss Rutan, I think, beats Dan Severn.
Maybe. I think Boss is second. I think Dan would come in the best shape. He'd take it the most seriously, and he'd outlast everybody, kind of what you described.
Man, I hate that you said that because now I wish I would have. I feel bad. My boy, he's my boy. But no, I'm sticking with Bob.
That's awesome.
Being that we're talking a little bit more about this event, I mean, is there like a time frame that you're looking at? Is there, maybe we can be expecting this?
No, unfortunately, there's not like so many events. I mean, things get stuck in what you call development hell forever. And it's always been about finding the right home for it and the right sponsorship setup. I thought we had it set up in Canada last year. I thought we had it set up in Thailand the year before that. Now, logically, it looks like India for the end of next year. But I can't say with any certainty that it will happen. There's a lot of moving parts to it. We're on it. We're serious about it. But, we've got to try to pull it off now also because a lot of these guys aren't going to be willing to get into the cage a year from now or 2 years from now.
Well, Dan's put a time limit on it, and I know he extended it through 2013 now because he didn't get what he wanted in 2012. But
a lot of these guys have time limits, but here's the bottom line. If we do this and we do it the way that I would like to do it, there'll be enough prize money at the end where anybody with a timeline, I think, would be willing to extend it a minute to take a shot.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Well, and Rick, having mentioned India, and you were just over there, doing your thing with Korn, MMA in India right now is really growing with the SFL. They've got a show called Challengers. It's a reality TV show they're doing.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen
India. It. Did you have a chance while you were over there to experience anything, in the MMA world, see any fights or talk to anybody along those lines?
Well, I know a lot about it, but I haven't actually seen it. I've been to a couple of the gyms there. I'm very familiar with SFL and the TV program. I've seen it. It's the sport absolutely has a growing awareness in the country. UFC has just gotten television, so UFC is not really branded there yet. But there's a huge growing appetite for it. and it's going to be all about who I want to say first to market. SFL to a degree is there, but they have a bit of a different game plan also. They're more of a showcase for their owners who are Bollywood stars, more that than an emphasis on the fighting itself.
So you can put your brand in there and make it to where the UFC falters, eh?
Well, if we do it right, yeah, like anything else. I think much like ONE FC is doing over in Asia right now. Would be,
and what a show! What a show!
ONE FC, Victor Cui is doing a really, really good job with what he's doing. And
their next event coming up October 6th is shaping up to be a great event, with Aoki on the card.
Three Gracies, I think.
Yeah, versus my boy LaPont. LaPont's going to come and shock the world.
Yeah, Victor is the promoter's a very, very smart guy. He knows what's going on in the marketplace. He's growing it intelligently. He's serious about it. I went over to a show in Jakarta a few months ago, and as near as I can tell, the guy's doing everything right. And we wouldn't have exactly the same model for India, but it would be based on a real company based around the sport. And,
I like the international flavor he gives to it. He pits countries against each other. I like it.
Yeah, that's a very, very good concept. Ours would be mainly India-centric, but we'd be bringing guys in from every country that does produce fighters, because people like to see that sort of thing.
If you get every TV set in India tuned on you got something.
Yeah, that's for darn sure.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, the company I'm with there is a very, very big company. They're excellent at television, and the resources are there. So it's just about taking the time and doing it right. That's all.
It sounds like you're the man for the job.
Well,
that's our 2-minute warning. That's our 2-minute.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. I knew I'd be boring tonight. I felt it when I got on the phone. But
are you kidding?
No, it's all good.
I appreciate your indulging me. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, man. We're just running out of time. Shit, I'm bummed.
No, it's cool. I appreciate your airtime. I really do. How'd it go the rest of the night? You have some good guests on?
Yeah, Jim Arvanitas.
Oh, from Pancrase.
Yeah.
Very
yes,
cool.
We had him on. He was it was really educational talking with that guy. I learned a lot about the sport. And
I'll bet. He's a pioneer. What's he up to these days?
He's training guys and doing push-ups.
Right. Cool. We all got to do what it takes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Anyway, if you don't mind, stay tuned to my website. It's rickbassman.com. We've got a couple wrestling tours coming up to our global pro wrestling mission. One to Israel, one to Saudi Arabia, and a couple in the works in Africa as well. They'll either happen or they won't, but that's looking good. And I'll keep you up to date on the mixed martial arts happenings and the big rock tours in India and elsewhere.
Awesome.
I'll tell you what.
Thank you very much.
If you get a hold of Chris, hook us up with some of those other names. We've had a lot of those guys on the show already, and that's phenomenal that you're doing what you're doing, man. Everybody, go get this man's book. If anybody's really been there, done that, it's Rick Bassman, dude. That's amazing. When's that coming out again, sir?
November the 30th.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, Rick, thanks again, man. You take care and have a great evening, sir.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome, man.
Later.